turn that around. So I expect that FORG1VEN and Vander actually go off in bottom lane.
Yeah, I can agree with that. From what I've seen, FORG1VEN and Vander, they play the 2v2 fairly well. And going into this matchup, iNTZ versus H2K, I expect them to do much better than their counterparts.
And we can already see in picks and bans, Syndra taken off the board. I think no surprises after we see Bjergsen basically put on a clinic with the pick. It's probably going to remain banned moving forward. Vlad, Gnar, Nidalee, not a lot of bot lane focus coming in here. What do you think are going to be the priority picks for AD carry and support for FORG1VEN and Vander in this tournament?
Personally, I'm not too familiar with Vander's support champion pool, but from what I've seen this tournament, things like Nami and Karma are pretty vital in the pick ban phase. It seems like Nami does well just as like a blind pick support, which is surprising to me because prior to this, a lot of regions have been focusing only on melee supports. So we'll just have to see what he has in his pool.
And I mean, for me, I want to see FORG1VEN on a hyper carry ADC. I don't want, well, yesterday he was on Caitlyn, but I think that more so of the loss of H2K yesterday was because of Ryu. I would like to see Ryu put more on a utility or supportive mid laner to really amplify FORG1VEN and Jankos.
So let's talk a little bit about the AD carry picks that could potentially come out in terms of him being a hyper carry. We do have a lot of Ezreal, not necessarily considered that traditional hyper carry, obviously, despite the fact that Uzi did go off in the last game. That's not the standard performance we can come to expect. What do you think are the viable, kind of those viable scaling hyper carries that FORG1VEN could look to pick up?
I think FORG1VEN's probably going to end up playing Caitlyn or Tristana. Really, I really think he performs exceptionally well in this Champions, and you already see the Lucian banned out from iNTZ, so he's probably going to default to one of those, and we see the Karma pickup for H2K. So they're probably going to just look to play Caitlyn or anything with scaling and just pressure out the lane.
Yep, well, I think that it depends on how ITZ wants to allocate their counter pick. If it's going to be mid, top ADC, support, jungle, whatever. I think that there's a lot of possibilities. I think Caitlyn definitely has, or I think FORG1VEN definitely has the Caitlyn into Ezreal if iNTZ picks them early. Ezreal is one of FORG1VEN's most comfortable champions. And then, even though I don't think many other ADCs of the tournament will play her, as Gate mentioned, the Tristana is one of his favorites.
Yeah, he put on a clinic when he first brought that into the ULCS, coming back as the AD carry for H2K, showing up, putting on just an insane performance towards the later end of the season. We see iNTZ with their first rotation, now picking up the Rumble and the RekSai, but the more interesting pick, talking about the bottom lane, is that Karma, the first pick that came in for H2K. Now, do we expect this to be going into the hands of Ryu in the mid lane as that supportive pick you were talking about, or is it just too good in the bot lane to pass up?
The good thing is the option for both support and mid are up in the air. Like, they can really just tailor their draft to whatever they think is best. iNTZ they haven't revealed much about their mid, so I don't expect support to be picked here.
I think right now H2K's best option would be to just pick top jungle and respond and wait for more information. Karma's very, very flexible in how she can be used inside of team compositions. I would prefer to see her go to the support role and not on mid. I do not want to see, what? Kennen plus Cass plus Karma.
Maybe a little too much magic damage
That's
on the top here.
Quite a lot, but that also might indicate that Jankos will either go on to Graves or Kindred.
May indicate that AD carry jungler, or that AD jungler rather, but it definitely indicates that the Karma will be the support on the bottom side of the map. Kennen taking up the top lane, Cassio in the mid. iNTZ, maybe a little bit harder for them to pick their next rotation with regards to bottom lane, but now they know exactly what they want for the mid lane. Why do you think H2K are showing these picks so early?
It's actually kind of surprising to me that they showed those picks early. I mean, Cassiopeia is kind of a dominant mid laner, or at least high priority right now in Worlds meta. So I think they just wanted to take it away. But it is surprising because they could also just choose to give it to iNTZ and pick around it. Yeah, I guess they just wanted to get the pick as soon as possible.
Ellis, do you think that the Cassio is high priority enough that you want to secure it this early in the draft? Syndra and Vladimir are both off the table.
I think if, definitely if Aurelion Sol's disabled and Syndra is off the table, then Cassiopeia is probably the tier 1 top, or the top of tier 1 for mid lane champions that remain available. My only problem is Ryu got huge advantages yesterday, and then he did nothing with it, and he cost his team multiple team fights.
Yeah, very risky pick overall. But ladies and gentlemen, you can take this opportunity as we round out the composition from H2K to head on over to Twitter and use the hashtag AskTheCasters to have your questions answered in game. Me, LS, Gate, we're here. Well, who am I kidding? Not me. LS and Gate are here to answer questions. I'm here to ask questions. I'm here to learn, just like the rest of you.
Answer them too. That's fine.
But Caitlyn,
Yep.
now going to come in as the pick. We were wondering whether or not we're going to see the Tristana. Looks like not today, but let's talk a little bit about the Caitlyn coming out here for Forgiven.
Well, I think that the Caitlyn is available if they pick Ezreal, which is what I mentioned before the pick ban basically began, because Caitlyn just has such a nice matchup against Ezreal. She is a super hard-hitting physical damage champion. And then it looks like Jankos might round it out with Skarner, who he deals hybrid damage, but the trend lately has been to build Warrior Enchantment into Trinity Force.
We see how in the LPL, the LCK, we almost saw it in that remade game yesterday, Skarner finally coming in for H2K here. Now, the final pick going to come in from iNTZ will most likely be that support, short of anything absolutely insane here. Gate, what do you think is the best pick to really balance out the laning phase against that Caitlyn Karma?
I would just go Nami here, or just some other healing support. I'm pretty sure Nami is the best pick here. It doesn't. I think iNTZ's draft doesn't give them that much room to pick anything else. They could go with Alistar as well for engage. I think they're lacking a bit of engage. I think we'll end up seeing Nami or Alistar. And I think just this pick ban is a little strange because I think iNTZ had a lot of options to counterpick H2K. Yeah, we see the Nami. Yeah, they had a lot of options to counterpick and get better solos or just counterpick their bot duo, but they just chose not to. We'll have to see if they could just farm out the lane with Ezreal Nami or just get advantage with that pairing.
Draft now finalized, mid lane matchup, Orianna versus Cassio, the Skarner coming into the jungle, but Skarner not always a champion you see with a lot of early aggression. However, it does seem like H2K have set themselves up to win the early laning phase. How do you think Forgiven and Vander need to play this lane, and more importantly, what are their goals in the early laning phase?
I think they really just want to keep Ezreal and Nami under tower. Both of those champions can't do too much if they're just pushed in. They have to just keep track of their enemy jungler and then just slowly chip away at the enemy tower, hopefully make a fight when the tower gets low, and the game should play very simply. I like what they've drafted for their bot lane.
Yeah, I completely agree with Gate. I think that the drafts are relatively standard. I don't think that there's any clear-cut weaknesses for either team. And as you asked, I do think that Ezreal and Nami should be shoved under almost permanently, and that would just enable Skarner or Jankos to devote a lot of attention to top and mid.
Interesting. So while this is the H2K bot lane focus stream, I'm curious, what is going to be the options for response here in iNTZ? We have that Rumble in the top lane, the Orianna in the mid. What is their team trying to play to? How do they stop this Caitlyn from just controlling the bottom lane and really losing out on that pressure?
Personally, I think they should just play to their jungle advantage. RekSai is like a tier 1 jungler. Most people agree with me. So anytime they get like an opportunity to set up their jungler for success, they should take it. And then I don't think the laning phase will end up being too poor, but we'll really have to see because I think H2K definitely has the upper hand in the 2v2.
I think, of course, we do innately consider them the stronger mechanical mid lane or mechanical bot lane. micaO and Jockster, kind of one of the weaker points on the iNTZ lineup. We'll have to see if these guys can keep up, at least in CS. I can't imagine we'll see too many solo kills, but after that game with Uzi, you can never be sure what to expect. Someone may just be looking to put on a clinic here. But in the meantime, level 1's Gate, we talked earlier about how important the level 1 can be for bottom lanes. What do you think is going through the heads of each of these duos?
Well, this is pretty standard for like a 5-point star. Generally, you'll actually see like Nami match the Karma in the bot lane brush and see basically push out there and see who can like control that area, because getting vision there is important to make sure to have knowledge of whether they're doing the camp or not. Right now, it seems like both teams are going to end up with like a neutral level 1 star. I think both teams, like if you don't know exactly what the enemy duo is doing, the safest thing is just to wait in this brush and try to fight them level 1, try to get like a health advantage like that.
One thing I want to point out is if Ezreal and Nami do elect to actually take the Gromp, because H2K knows that they have no intel onto the golems, you can have a very standard level 1 cheese, as Gate was mentioning right here, where they let the minion wave pass, Ezreal and Nami come into the lane, they eat a Mantrid Q, and then Caitlyn just chunks them right out of the lane.
So much early damage coming in from that Karma level on the Mantrid Q.
Oh, a good start. It's not so bad. At least they were both pretty aware that that was like a possibility. So now we'll just see the lane play out evenly as they both try to like They're going to try to kill all the melees here, and they'll probably contest each other over the range creeps.
Yep.
You can already see FORG1VEN getting the early push on here, trying to get as much damage down on these early creeps, starting that push under tower like you talked about earlier. Now, this matchup doesn't seem like there's a whole ton of kill pressure, but micaO does take a chunk there. How important is the level 2 between these lanes?
Ooh, I really think iNTZ can push for some aggressive level 2 play, but based on how the level 1 went, they're already not likely to get the level 2. So I think we'll just end up seeing what we talked about in the Champion Select. H2K are going to keep the lane pushed. And right now, I think Vander, he has a lot of options. He can just... actually, Skarner started the opposite side, so right now I think they're pretty content with just keeping them under the tower.
One thing I want to point out is I feel like this is a slight misplay from H2K because I think that this is... Oh, well, never mind, actually. Now I see on the... Well, it's bugged, but I can see the trinket's not up. But that would have been an opportunity to get intel in on RekSai to just continue the assault. Because then it would reach a point where RekSai would be not optimal to go bottom.
Yeah, Vander had some free time there. He could have easily just moved out of the lane, did whatever he wanted, and then got an event, like a small intel advantage like that. I agree with that. Looks like they're just trying to keep themselves safe. That's like a standard word. I'm wondering if they actually know if the RekSai is on their side of the jungle.
Well, I don't actually like that ward because the lane was resetting and it's obvious that Ezreal and Nami are going to start hitting it. So they could have taken the opportunity to actually walk all the way up to Skullcrab and place the ward.
Yep.
So a little bit of a misplay by H2K here. And so now it becomes a guessing game of where is RekSai because they don't even know that the Skullcrab's been taken.
Interesting. Of course, they are now going to see the RekSai, and this brings us to an excellent point. We have a question coming in from Twitter. @MaximRCallin asks, should Jankos play around the stronger bot lane, or should he look to cover for Odoamne here?
I think either one is fine. He has to just make a good decision based on how the lanes are going. So I think either option will probably give him some success, or he can make some advantages like that. So I think what he ended up doing is just farming his jungle, which is also fine because it seems like his lanes are just winning naturally at the moment. So he'll be stronger in the later portions of the game.
Of course, good to see. I mean, just farming out at this point, maybe we'll have to put some pressure down earlier, but the Kennen versus Rumble, that Rain advantage. We have the Caitlyn on the bottom side. Ellis, as you mentioned, just bullying out this Ezreal. Can't really match that early range, that early pressure. Yep. Now, look, what is the break point when we look at these two lanes? Because right now it seems like we are just going to be farming. H2K are going to keep pushing in. What is the opportunity to change it? And I guess we might see it here.
This is a pretty poorly executed gank. I think there really needs to be more setup for that gank because it just really ended up being a waste of time for RekSai. Maybe he really wanted to help their bot duo because they're getting constantly pushed in, but I don't think that's the correct way to do it. Yeah,
I completely agree with Kate that gank, there's multiple reasons why that's bad. It's very unlikely that they can ever get a kill there, even when using summoners, and if you do try to go for it, which you will fail, you'll end up trading summoners. And what that ends up doing is RekSai actually falls behind in tempo, so no matter what, the rotation from Revolta here is pretty poor relative to how the lane's playing out. And also, if we look at the CS chart, all across the board, iNTZ is getting destroyed.
Kill pops.
Flash is coming out there in the end as Jockster tries to make his way out, but yeah, burning both of those summoner spells. You talked about summoner spell trading being bad. We've now burned one of each from the AD carry and support. Vander giving up both of his on the side of H2K. And this just looks to be going greatly in the favor of H2K overall.
I personally, maybe they actually could have finished off the kill for giving flash forward or positioned a little forward, but nevertheless, it's like pretty good advantage to start with. You ended up burning Nami flash. You did trade the summoners, but I think they're gonna end up just being content and pushing the tower like they are doing now.
Oof, Jockster.
Really nice timing by Vander when he threw that RQ.
FORG1VEN taking a lot of damage there, but it just doesn't appear to be going in the favor of iNTZ whatsoever.
Yep.
Yeah, you see, FORG1VEN, like a good AD player, he's not really scared to even though his HP is fairly low, he's not scared at all to just walk up and take that trade because he knows even if the worst case scenario he can just use his heal and then he's gonna just keep pressuring this lane. I think he's gonna end up basing now, which I think is the correct time.
Yep. I think not only that, he's denying that half of a wave and he's going back with a massive amount of gold. You can see 2,000, yeah, 200. 1900 on the opposite side.
Probably see Boots tier 2. I can definitely see an argument for Boots tier 2 from Caitlyn here, just so... Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't go for
he wants
Boots
that
tier
BF sword.
Yeah. So it looks like he's already just feeling like, okay, I'm just going to try to keep solo killing you, and we're just going to keep trying to apply pressure, get that first blood tower. The argument for the boots tier 2, though, is they have so much control in this lane, and Nami is flashless, that using traps to augment the terrain and the movement speed granted by the tier 2 boots would enable FORG1VEN to apply a lot more pressure underneath turret.
So if I'm Vander right now, I would just be telling I'd be telling my jungler to meet up with me, and ideally we just control the bottom side of the river, and then that makes it so we can keep doing damage to the tower, and then eventually once the tower gets to a critical point, we can make a fight there, or we can just get the tower for free. As you can see, they're doing that. I think they should clear that ward. Yeah. I think so far I think H2K, they're playing the map fairly well.
Yep.
Overall, I mean, they have a massive CS lead already, approaching that 20 CS point as FORG1VEN clears out this wave as the lane now set to reset.
I think that there's no point to do that for FORG1VEN. He has such a gigantic AD lead, you know, just because of the stats. Ezreal has Call Tier, Caitlyn has BF Sword. There's no reason to actually auto-attack that wave because it's coming into you. And you know that RekSai was just on the bottom half of the map about 30, 40 seconds ago, and so now you know that RekSai is going to be west-centric on how he's going to play the map, which means that Ezreal and Nami would be forced to be overextended without summoners.
Yeah, I agree with that. It seems like they're pretty content with just hitting the tower, but at the same time, they could be carving out a big CS lead by doing what you just said.
Yeah, 23 not too bad, however, but maybe not quite optimal overall. They will, however, continue to pressure, will continue to poke down on that tower.
They're going to get a lot of damage right now.
Yeah.
This tower should be, I would say it should be about like 30% now, and anytime like Jankos has the free time to just come down here, they should be able to just take it and push for that first turret money.
Yeah, first strike has been relatively important. Jockster just continues to take this poke. This is brutal. Is this... Now let me know, is this just generally how the Karma Caitlyn matchup goes, or is this something that FORG1VEN and Vander are doing especially well?
I think, like I said, the level 1 is super important. Imagine if you were the Ezreal Nami and you were in the front brush and you fought them level 1. It could have been a completely different level 2. And no, who knows, like if it turned out successfully, they could be the ones pushing in Vander and FORG1VEN.
I do, you know, mentioning the level 1 again, I do have to give iNTZ credit for walking slightly, like about 2 centimeters behind the minions, you know, relative to the brush, so that even if Karma wanted to do a mantra Q, she would not be able to land it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Looks like it's pretty brutal right now. The tower is so low. I think anytime, like, if I'm Vander, I'd be calling, like, if I see any detail on where RekSai is, I should be confident in making a play bottom side. So if we're able, if Jankos comes bottom, I think it's like an easy fight, even if it turns out to be a 3v3. I think that's what they should look for right now.
So despite the CS advantages, it's still a relatively quiet game overall. Who does this give the greater advantage to if it just continues to be this kind of farm fest?
Well, H2K overall have a much faster wake-up in that their item purchases are relatively cheaper than iNTZ, and they don't have to rely on any sort of scaling or like quest items such as the Monomune. And so because of that, Kennen is going to be more impactful on teleports earlier on, and Skarner at level 6, anytime he has flash, is infinitely more threatening than Revolta's RekSai.
I think if the game stays like the way it is right now, the game's over already. If you just look at the carry CS, like mids down 30, bots down 30, it's going to end up being a game where like it's not really possible to play as we see the first turret go down. This is going to be a huge chunk of cash for FORG1VEN. Yep. And I think he's just going to deny as many creeps as he can before he goes to tower.
Yep. Cool. It's actually really, really nice to do. Not so much if you're in solo queue, but for competitive play, you definitely want to let the tower kill as many minions as possible before handing the wave back off to the opponent.
And I mean, a fat chunk of gold. You can already see the massive CS advantage, the additional 650 gold picked up there from getting the solo tower gold. Vander already on the roam mid. Now, we look at this as we approach the mid game. LS, you use this term a lot, and I love it. It's called, you call them wake-up timers. Now, go a little bit in depth into what you mean by that. Which champion specifically are we talking about here?
Wake up, so basically there's a difference between wake up and power spike. A power spike is when a champion is already relatively strong, and then they get really strong. Wake up is when the champion either doesn't have a lot of ratios or they are reliant on getting the item before they start to do things. Kennen is like that, Cassiopeia is like that. So that's the difference between a wake up and a power spike.
So really looking to get those big items before they can become impactful. Of course, we did see some action in the mid lane there, a lot of low health bars, no one dying, but H2K are now taking control of the mid lane. I mean, are they just going to rinse and repeat here and take this to the top lane if they're able to grab mid as well?
I think, yeah, they're just... FORG1VEN is just mid because he's just waiting for the bot lane to push out before he collects the CS, so he has just free time to do as much damage as he wants to the tower. And then I would expect, like, after this wave, he just goes bottom and soaks that big wave that Ezreal was missing some for trying to hold mid.
I think that there's one of two options here. Because it's Mountain Drake, obviously FORG1VEN wants to move bottom. If this was another dragon, such as Water or Cloud Drake, I think it would be more optimal to rotate Odoamne down bottom and then put Caitlyn in top because you don't really care about the dragon. iNTZ, when they rehanded back off the wave, they botched how they auto-attacked the minions and sent it over. So now you can see that iNTZ, even though they're here even neutral farming, they're not getting a lock on the lane, which is what they would prefer with that tier Ezreal, to slowly come back into the game. Also, FORG1VEN's maxing trap second, which is really big when you begin to rotate to mid.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think right now, for iNTZ's bot, like they don't have too much of a choice on how they want to play the game because they have to put some income on Ezreal, but they're given like a bad situation based on how their laning phase went. So all they can do is kind of like scrap by, and then later hopefully they can get some good fights that they kind of have to wait for H2K's bot lane to make a blunder before they can really do anything.
Yep.
So as the game kind of stalls out, as we get back to H2K pushing up these lanes, we have another question from Twitter. @FetaCheese asks, can you explain the power spikes for each team and who has the better team fighting comp on paper? Now that's a really big question, so I'll start with the second half. Who has the better team fighting comp on paper? Who could just come out on top, assuming everyone comes into it equal?
Well, if what you mean is who has more wombo, then I think iNTZ, if they cast all their spells together, it's really easy to kill everyone. But it's really unlikely that that scenario ever happens, so you actually have to think about like, that's why it's like not so much of a good idea in competitive just to draft for team fight. You have to draft for like power in certain lanes, and you have to think about like where your opponents are thrown to. Based on how this game is going, I doubt we'll even see a team fight.
I mean, looking at it from you, LS, as well, maybe not going to see that kind of wombo combo team fight short of some disastrous positioning from H2K,
right.
But looking at individual power spikes, H2K already with a massive gold lead. Are there any really big item break points that we need to look for here?
Well, Ezreal basically needs to get to 3 items. Orianna just basically needs to get to her first item, and then Rumble's also going to need a few items. If we look at, what team comp is theoretically better in a wombo combo scenario, yes, technically in a fictional world, iNTZ's would be better, right?
Not a lot of faith in that perfect setup there.
Yeah.
Fictional world.
It's much more likely that H2K is going to be able to reliably get their setup off more often because their setup is able to be proactive via their flashes and their ultimates, where iNTZ needs positioning in addition to their flashes and their ultimates, and the positioning needs to be relative to each other.
I mean, that's a pretty grim fate, and already it just feels like the slow, systematic bleed out of iNTZ. I know we're only 15 minutes in, but it is that 2K gold lead. H2K clearly winning out across the board. You see, starting to see massive CS discrepancies. The only person with the lead at this point is Revolta. So if you are on the iNTZ side, I mean, what are your options here?
I think you have to... okay, so from what I've seen, H2K is actually grouping up mid more than they would, or what I think is like good. What they can do is just control their jungle more and try to move to you have vision on basically everyone at this point, so I think they should try to move between mid and bot and try to get advantages like that. For iNTZ, it's kind of hard. You really just have to like wait for them to make a blunder in the jungle.
We see currently Vander pushing up to get this deep vision on the bottom side. Is this kind of where we expect him to be getting vision?
Yeah, they should. As a support right now, your job is basically just to move between the lanes, reset your wards if you have to, and keep vision in the jungle.
Interesting overall, of course, as we start to push further. Supports are getting vision, FORG1VEN is farming up, and they're just continuously, it feels like, pushing out these side waves and running it right back down mid. Are we going to see any kind of leaps coming in here from H2K where they want to start invading on the top side? It's only 16 minutes. When does Baron, I guess, become the priority? When can we expect the shift to top side pressure, because they have been so clearly bottom side focused?
They could go now, honestly, but I think what they want to do...
15-15 when FORG1VEN.
They really want to just pressure bottom turret if they can. I think they're just focusing mid a lot. They really want the tower before moving anywhere else. I think it's pretty hard though. Orianna has good wave clear. Yeah, if I were H2K, I would just send FORG1VEN Vander bottom side, clear everything in their jungle, and if I could get Skarner bottom as well, I could just siege the tier 2. Because the tier 1 everyone's just grouping for.
Interesting overall, of course, and I just had the stat fed to me that Vander has done 2,000 more damage.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this really quick. So you see this wave that was handed back over to H2K. FORG1VEN shouldn't have actually eaten this. This is the perfect timing to go mid, and then you deny an entire lane to the enemy team, and then you just force the mid-game siege fights because you have total control. Drake is down, and iNTZ is not in a position to do anything.
So now that FORG1VEN has pushed up this wave, as we're going to pull back to live here in a second as we see him continue to clear out, how does this affect the strategy that H2K have since been doing? Does this force them to make a different move, or is this purely just them missing out on this opportunity to deny iNTZ something?
I think that's exactly what it is. They just missed out on an opportunity to make a good advantage for themselves.
Yep.
Like right here, maybe since they swapped their duo iNTZ to mid, I feel like Caitlyn can take this turret just like she took the bottom turret. I think it's actually a mistake to send. They sent Orianna initially bottom to try to clear out the wave.
Yep.
They lost like maybe 15% of the tower's HP for that. Oh,
Nope.
you see a flash play.
There's the engage. miasma to make sure Jockster doesn't have any other mobility.
18-minute first blood. That's actually it's pretty late, but
It's
yeah.
always sad when you see that cast animation come out for the disengage ability and you die mid-animation. But, I mean, proactive play there. Does that just... what exactly happened there? How were H2K able to force that engage?
I think Nami just came in too far. You know, there's, as you can see on the map, there's just wards in their jungle. Nami tries to come in, Skarner just hides in the brush and then flashes on her. So it's just basically you have to respect that there's no way you can get vision there without like proper backing from your team. And it ends up just being like a flash for a kill, which is pretty bad for iNTZ because they're going to start falling even further behind.
Yeah, but at that same time, they are trying to make some kind of proactive move here in the mid lane. FORG1VEN really punishing them for trying to do so, but the ball has been attached to Revolta. I mean, are we at the point where iNTZ just need to make some desperation plays to come back, try to catch H2K sweeping, look for those over-aggressive moves?
Yeah, they definitely should.
Oh,
you
here it
see
might
something?
be. Fighting in the jungle, tidal wave does come out. Odo with a beautiful flash right over the tidal wave.
And Cassio lives too. Yeah, this is, I mean, they kind of know iNTZ are coming in as well, even though iNTZ thought they had the drop on them. This is just like the advantage of having vision in their jungles.
Yeah, and I just want to point out is while these fights are happening, they're basically forced directly because of what you see happening in the bottom lane on the minimap. And this is something that H2K could have forced and had happened way sooner had they manipulated the lanes slightly better.
Well, lane manipulation may be a priority, but Jankos does overextend, so it is a little bit of a brief respite.
That's just kind of a random death. Not exactly what he's trying to get the red, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you should just be careful of enemies' positioning. Right here, FORG1VEN's just going to hold mid, and then they're going to send Cassio bot. I think this is pretty good because as soon as Jankos responds, he can just go bottom side and help get vision with Vander, and then Caitlyn can just stay mid and take all the CS.
Yeah, FORG1VEN clearly terrifying at this stage of the game. Only the Runaans and the BF sword, but with the tier 2 boots now as well, looks to be building a second attack speed item.
No fear. I think he's just going to start hitting the tower if they don't do anything. I like how FORG1VEN, when he's, even though his intent is trying to get the tower, he definitely will just hit the champion first if they try to challenge him for it. He knows he's stronger in that regard, and then if they want to take free damage, he's going to dish it out.
I mean, he's dishing out a lot of it, too. You can see everyone who does step up and trade with him is not going to be able to win out. But H2K, Vander, and FORG1VEN have been sticking together for, I mean, the majority of this game. That stat does appear to be proving true. Is there something else that Vander could be doing besides sticking with FORG1VEN to maybe help H2K speed up this game?
To be honest, they should be really fearless this game. They should be taking control of, like, the bottom side and sieging for, like, a mid or tier 2. Like, they've been trying mid a lot, but it's basically every champion is there already because it's pretty obvious they're just going to stay mid. I think they're going to get on this way, but I actually thought with their advantage, they should have been pressuring bottom more.
Well, I think that given the advantage, well, they're going to get Dragon anyway.
Yeah.
I think that mid lane tier 1 should have already fallen had they just done some things a little bit better.
Yeah, that's true as well.
And in that scenario, you could have looked to actually take Rift Herald sooner, way earlier on into the game. But that's sort of like a missed opportunity. But now, I'm wondering if they're intentionally not doing this Dragon or if they set up for it late intentionally to force the team fight.
Odo has TP. To be honest, he could just TP behind them and ace them right now. But I'm not sure what H2K's plan is. They just want to give up this dragon.
It's a bold call. TP behind an ace, but H2K are just walking away. What is going through H2K's head right now in terms of shot calling? Why did they give that up even though they are clearly in the lead?
They should be fighting over mid and then just go to dragon. And then if they come to dragon, it's a free fight with a TP. It's really surprising. I think that's just like a lapse in judgment. They can just take a very big advantage if they get the fight. So that really should have been their focus.
Yep. And now FORG1VEN's having to recall because he's stockpiling way too much gold. I think one of the main problems was that we saw the gold count on Kennen and FORG1VEN, and they both recalled way too late. And so what ends up happening is the on-field gold for iNTZ is actually higher than H2K's because iNTZ comes fresh off of a recall. So it doesn't matter if you have a 3K, 5K gold lead if you have 4,000 gold remaining on the field. Then it's really only like a 1K gold.
I like that. That's not a good spending philosophy for the people out there who should save the money in the bank. But FORG1VEN, who goes back and goes from BF sword to IE, may need to consider that next time before they go for the Drake. But he does now have that itemization. And speaking of, I want to take a look at the bottom lane briefly. Ruby Sightstone pulled out very early for both the supports here. This has been an item rising in popularity, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. Why is it good? Why are we not seeing the upgrades like Eye of the Washers as we saw, you know, a few months ago in the meta?
The #1 reason I can say for sure is that it's just cheap as hell. It's 1,600 total, and it's for, oh, we see some mission here.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
But I guess right now, because that was super fast.
That was just a free kill, I guess, with Skarner Flash. That's one of the strengths. But yeah.
Ryu didn't need to use Ghosts.
Yeah, he didn't.
He
Really
did
didn't.
not need to.
Every mid laner I've seen, they just pop Ghosts like whenever they feel like it. So
it is a blue buff Cassiopeia with a Mountain Drake. They could cheese this.
Yeah, and
as soon as that scuttle fades, and it's about to fade, they could actually try to 2-man it.
I mean, you already see Kennen's pressuring on the bottom side.
Yep.
Yang looks like he is set to fall. You can see it on your picture-in-picture. Does make it out with his life, but he has to burn Flash. Now, TP available for both top laners. A ton of vision for H2K.
Yeah, they need to 2-man this dragon right now. Or Baron, I'm sorry, because Cassiopeia has blue buff. Superstar stance from micaO.
I think
we could argue that maybe it's standard, but sometimes, especially when you're under so much pressure from having, you know, every single tower, you're getting blown out in a macro sense right now.
Yep.
Maybe, you know, your senses aren't tingling like they normally would, just due to the pressure.
Yeah, I definitely think he could have waited a bit. But yeah, I think actually doing the Baron there would have been a really good call if they just did it right away. As soon as you hesitate for that kind of stuff, like, just don't do it. It's going to be a waste of time. I mean, you saw Revolta near it, but I'm sure they had the damage for it too.
Now, I'm curious, looking towards the next potential Baron setup, when can H2K go for it next? Is it the next time that Ryu has a blue buff? How much work now has to go into setting up the next Baron?
Use your 2 sweepers right now, clear out everything in their jungle, put your wards down, and then see if they fight you. If they don't, you can just start it right away. That's what I think.
Yep.
You make it sound so easy.
I mean, well, we saw it earlier in the in the TSM game. What they were missing is just 2 sweepers. Like, they just missed some wards, and it stalled the game like 5-6 minutes. It's important to just like think about where the wards are, clear them out, and just hit the Baron because, like, for Jankos, he already has Renuance. He's not even gonna take any damage hitting it, and if you kill it with the Mountain, you just get a huge advantage.
Yep. Right now, what H2K wants to do is they would actually want to do a 4-1-0 to enable the bottom lane to just keep shoving back into H2K's bottom tier 1 turret, and then just nullifying that lane entirely to force only 2 active lanes. If they can do that, and then when the dragon comes up, they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by either getting the dragon and then pushing with all the minions that they're likely to have, or pushing first and then falling back and getting the dragon.
Interesting. So curious, looking at the potential 4-1-0 setup, as you call it, what are the steps necessary for FORG1VEN and Vander, or really for anyone on the team to get that rolling, to start that kind of play based around that wave manipulation?
Well, no matter what you do right now on this stage of the game, you need vision in their topside jungle. So I would say that's the first step. And to get that, you'll need to push mid first to make sure they're not like hiding in the brush and cheesing you. So I think what they're doing now is fine. They just leave. Oh, they got a catch. Cassiopeia comes out. Yeah, I think now they can take control of the topside jungle. They just have to keep an eye on RekSai and someone just go over the wall and like make sure he doesn't steal it. It's already like there's no chance that iNTZ should be able to win a fight here, so they should feel pretty comfortable in starting it.
Jankos is down 1 level to RekSai.
I think Yeah, that's kind of surprising, actually. This means he's been missing out on a lot of farm.
How important is that level difference? Actually, we'll hold on to that as we see the fight break out because H2K look to get aggressive. That was a beautiful proto belt, and Forgiven, while he is the center of our attention, is not going to be the center of attention in that team fight because this just looks like a cleanup.
Nice by Jankos. Nice double kill.
Yeah, this is correct usage of TP. They step out too far, you got to ward behind them, just use it, take the advantage. I think now they can just hit the Baron and just someone's own RekSai, and then they should secure this lead and then use the Baron to push the towers.
And now they are even in level. Revolta.
This is kind of desperate. H2K should go. Oh, this is kind of a 50-50.
I want to point out this Baron attempt is actually bad.
Okay. Oh, so close. Yeah, I don't know. If iNTZ got that Baron, it's really bad for H2K because basically it just wastes all the time they've been like trying to set up for it and all that stuff. So they should have taken it like way slower. I think the call there was just like leave the Baron at 2K and like hopefully Revolta comes in and you kill him before he kills the Baron. But I don't know, everyone has AoE abilities, they're hitting the Baron, or some people, it seems like the Baron HP, like someone had to hit the Baron, it went down pretty low. So I think it's a risky call, but it's lucky that H2K finally secured the Baron.
My issue with the Baron call was immediately following the double kill, bottom lane was still a nullified lane. What they could have done is acknowledge that iNTZ can't actually get the Baron, even if they had like free deal on it, because HK could just get there too soon. So rather than attempting the Baron, a better play is to push in top tier 2 tower, attempt to take it, recall, push up mid, get Dragon, and then unite with the lane in bottom, shove up and pull him away from the Dragon or Baron side of the map.
Now, looking at that strategy, it seems like a lot more steps. It seems potentially a lot more complicated. Do you think that's just a much harder strategy to execute overall?
Maybe not. Yeah, I guess it's more thinking than just baiting Baron. I feel like every single team at Worlds should know how to bait the Baron in clear vision. So that's like the default strategy. And if you're able to pull it out, you get a free Baron. So most teams will definitely default to that over like trying to set up a wave.
Now, yeah, watching an inhibitor go down, watching a 12K gold lead build, and as H2K just look to keep the ball rolling here and take down mid. It's one potentially final opportunity to ask a big old Twitter question we have coming in from micaO. Hey LS, big fan, he says, or she. What are iNTZ's win conditions here? Is it just H2K screwing up, or maybe Orianna getting big, Rumble carrying? We talked about this earlier, but what has to happen if iNTZ want to turn this one around?
If iNTZ wants to turn this around, I think that there needs to be a remake.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think anything is going to happen. Maybe Forgiven's mouse could unplug and the ref just denies to pause. That could happen. Realistically, the only thing is that, that fictional scenario that we talked about, that ultimate wombo combo, 5-man ultimate, Orianna ult via RekSai with a Rumble ult that ticks for every single second. Nami ult and a 5-man Ezreal. That's just not going to happen.
I mean, Ryu might go down here. Never mind.
Even
just too
with
much.
that kind of start, it's impossible to win the team fight like this. So I'm pretty sure, let's just go next game. I don't think there's much to say. Like, this team fight is as easy as it could get for H2K.
And I mean, H2K just going off here. The lead is massive. Every single player is putting on a clinic in their respective roles. And I mean, this one seems poised to end, and we take it back to the early game. How much of this is centered around bottom lane, or how much of this is just H2K outclassing?
Wait, this whole game is just based on laning strength, I think. All the advantages they got were just purely from the lane phase, so this is just a good example of a team that's better than the other team at closing the game.
But iNTZ beat EDG?
Oh, that's true. Maybe they're better than EDG.
Is the tier list now H2K, iNTZ, EDG? You can't see my hands because I'm not on camera, but EDG is at the bottom, and that's a sad place.
Yep.
I mean, based on wins, yeah, that's the transitive property, right? So
much better laning phase from. Well, he had a good laning phase yesterday, but Ryu did ride his opponent quite a lot in CS. I think that one of the main key points actually was the bottom lane, though. The amount of pressure that Forgiven and Vander applied to iNTZ just hurt Revolta so much. He ended up making multiple poor route decisions, and that let Jankos get even further ahead and keep up in level when generally RekSai should out-level.
So I'm curious, is this Revolta making poor decisions, or is Revolta forced to come bottom to kind of try to relieve that pressure? If Revolta hadn't come bottom, would we have started to see some Forgiven solo kills, or maybe the tower going down that much sooner?
I think it's a bit of both. Like, you should know you should know it's a bad decision, but you are also forced to make a bad one. So it's just like there's no winning scenario there. Feels bad to be on the losing end of that one.
For sure.
Yeah, overall, of course, very clean game coming in for H2K. A little bit sloppy around that Baron setup. I think a few more risks than we would have liked to see, but I mean, you can't argue with the results. Massive gold lead, closing out with confidence. It looked pretty solid, but looking forward, H2K, of course, have, I mean, not to disrespect iNTZ, but they have some bigger competition coming up. EDG, if they can get back into form, we look at the rest of their group. My question to you guys is, what are the little things that we can talk about for H2K that they need to focus on, that they need to improve to make sure that they're going to be able to compete with these other top teams?
Well, I mean, for FORG1VEN and Vander versus Deft and micaO, I know that coming into this tournament, Deft and micaO are regarded as potentially the best bottom lane in the world, or one of them, obviously. I think during the laning phase, FORG1VEN could actually potentially have an edge. So securing a good matchup for bottom and jungle, I think is a very important dynamic to that matchup, because ClearLove, Deft, and micaO are also the focal points for EDG. So I think it comes down to a bot and jungle show.
I mean, going to be interesting to see, of course, Jankos versus ClearLove, the last matchup. Now, they've also dropped a game to AHQ as well. That game was a little disastrous here and there. Do you think some of those Baron decision-making issues that we saw, some of those kind of poor shot callings are going to be an issue as they move forward as well? Or do they just need to focus on getting those early leads and just continuing to be pretty proactive in snowballing them?
When you have a lead like that, you really should minimize your risks, especially around Baron. It really takes like just 30 more seconds to like make sure the RekSai can't go over the wall, like just chunk them out, send someone over. These are like things you should just discuss after you watch the game and say like, hey, we really need to do this against a better team, or even like if we got unlucky and like he smited it in time. It's just like all these little things, clean it up for better teams.
Yeah, I think, I mean, small issues like that, of course, not always what we like to see, but looking forward, of course, our next matchup, we do have another bot lane focus. We've got micaO Def versus On and Albus. Now, LS, I'm not going to get a chance to broadcast it, so I want to ask you how you think that bot lane matchup is going to play out. Who do you think has the edge there? I know Albus and On kind of counted out frequently. Do you think this one is just clearly in the favor of Deft and micaO?
Yeah, for sure. I think that given, you know, Deft and micaO, even though they lost yesterday's game, and a lot of people were shocked by it, I still think that Deft and micaO were on point for the most part.
What do you think overall makes them such a good bottom lane?
I think that their synergy is really on point. I think that Deft over the years has gone from playing passive and controlled to knowing when he can push his limits. And I think that even on, you know, more so utility AD carries, Deft has actually learned ways to still influence the lane in an aggressive manner. And when coped with ClearLove, they always have the resources that they need to go aggressive whenever they want.
Interesting. Well, I'm excited to see how that one plays out in our next matchup. And that does it for our discussion with that game. But there's even more on the way, so bottom lane duos don't go anywhere. Coming up, Gate's going to stay, Rusty's going to be back, and we're going to stay focused on the south side of the Summoner's Rift. We're looking at micaO and Albus, two very big playmakers. We'll see if Albus is going to be able to step up to the challenge. For now, though, let's send it over to an interview with Jankos, which is already in progress.